shut up and take my money.
Welcome to the channel. I am Keith the Trucker, and in this video I will be going over my year-end 2020 pay stub. As you can see, I blurred out my name, but I tried to leave some of it so you can actually know that this is my true pay stub. In the first load, I believe I went from Ohio to Tennessee. As you can see, the loaded miles was $3.97 at a pay rate of $1.05, which brought me to 416 and some change. The empty miles, 48, again at a rate of $1.05, which brought me 50 and some change. Now the fuel surcharge, which you get on each run, you get a fuel surcharge, which is basically a portion of the fuel that goes into the tank. A portion of that money comes back to you, so you want to try and keep your costs as reasonable as possible. That way you're actually making money. So the fuel surcharge on this load was $1.02. As you can see, I filled up at a TA. I filled up once, which I was probably almost empty on this because it shows $2.90. So some loads, the smaller loads, sometimes I just fill up once, which is okay because I stretch my fill. So for this run, I ended up with $2.79, which that's okay for a short run. It's not bad. And my second load went from Tennessee to Virginia. Loaded miles, $6.97. Again, pay rate of $1.05. 731 and some change. Empty miles, $1.38. Pay rate $1.05 for $1.44 and some change. Fuel surcharge of $1.92. I filled up once, which was $2.77. So on this run I brought in $7.90, which that's about an average run for me, about 600 miles or somewhere in there, sometimes longer, but that's an average run, about $7.90. That's not bad. One thing I will say is, in order to make money, you want to control the variables that you can control. The variables being fuel. Sometimes repairs can be avoided if you check things out ahead of time. Some repairs can be avoided, and just the little things will help save you some money in the long run. So going into the third load, it was Virginia to Illinois. Loaded miles 802 at a pay rate of $1.05 for $8.42. Empty miles of 0, which usually means that it's somewhere around the corner or is not a long distance, long enough to where you would pretty much get any money. So this load, I believe I picked it up somewhere very close. So loaded miles 0 at a rate of $1.05, which is 0 obviously, but fuel surcharge on this one was $1, looks like 84. I filled up twice, which probably means it was a heavier load. $2.48 for one fill up, and the other fill up was $1.83. Now on these type of loads, what I like to do is I'll run it down to maybe a quarter of a tank, which is probably what the $2.48 was. I'll run it down to about a quarter of a tank, then I'll fill up again in hopes of carrying me most of the trip. And then as it gets down to about a half a tank, give or take, I'll see how much distance I have to go until the loads dropped off, and I'll make a decision of whether or not to go ahead and fill up again. So I chose to fill up again, which was $1.83. So for this trip, I brought in $5.95, which that's not bad. At the end of every week, you got your, I guess you call it expenses. You got your expenses, is the best word for it. So for my lease payment, I pay $700. That's for $550 for the truck, and the rest of it's for, I can't remember what the rest of it's for, but yeah, for a total payment of $700. So it'll be physical damage of $31, trailer insurance of $14, bobtail insurance of $693, driver's legal plan $298. Qualcomm rental is let's see, looks like $19.50, I believe. No, Qualcomm rental. I'm gonna say $19.50 or $28. I can't see that line, but yeah. And then the occupational accident insurance looks like $28. So I guess the Qualcomm was $19.50. So total expenses for that week is $802, which when you think about it, that's not bad for expenses as far as leasing, because I've seen way worse expenses. But my expenses, for the most part, what you see on those lines, most of that stuff is usually a fixed rate. So this 802 is usually about what comes out every week, unless I fall behind on a payment. Let's say if I'm at home too long or something, which rarely happens because I don't stay at home too long because I know I got this payment coming out. So usually I go home. Well, right now I'm going home roughly about every 4 or 5 weeks. But during peak season, I say every 6 to 8 weeks, give or take, is when I go home. Now for the last part, as you can see, it's got the rest of the expenses. Well, the total expenses for the year to date. And that's where I'm getting to. So for the year, total number of trips I made for 2020 was 134 trips. Total miles to the truck was 100,160. My net pay for the year was 101,130 and some change. The fuel surcharge, which is what I spent in fuel for the whole year, a little bit over 23,000. Which, like I said, I try and control the fuel as best I can. Obviously, I don't have APU and everything, so sometimes I am stuck running the truck, but I try and keep the cost down as much as possible. Hazmat pay, because I'm hazardous qualified, $50. Pickup pay, like if you got pickup pay, yeah, I don't know what that is, but it's $20. So stop off pay, if you got multiple stops, $40. Advance of $373. I think I took that the first week out the gate. Something had happened, all my gears went, so I had to take a little advance then, but I try not to take no advances. Bailey trailer insurance, $630. Bobtail insurance, $311. Legal plan, $134. Fall feast, which is basically a bonus to us, is $655. Field purchases, so field purchase was $39,000. The field surcharge, what they gave back to me, was $23,000. So Form 2290, which is, I think is like a highway tax or something, $798. Lease payment, what I've paid to the truck so far, $30,000. I don't know if all of it goes to the truck or if some of it goes to other things, but it shows $30,000. Mileage tax, $244. Physical damage insurance, $13.95. The drug screen, $25, which that's all that'll be unless you get hit with a drug screen or something. As far as I know, it's just a $25 fee for life. Qualcomm rental, $877. Field tax charge, I think that's the IFTA thing or whatever, $246. Accident insurance, $1,260. Over 9K, anytime we run over 9,000 miles in a month, I think we get some type of bonus. So $114. So my net, so my gross was $101,130. My net is $48,000, almost $49,000, which means I brought home almost half of the gross, which is okay for a first year. That's pretty good. You want to be at least about half or better, which means you're controlling the expenses to the best of your capabilities. So I think I did pretty good for a first year. I grossed 6 figures, and I'll just see what the second year has in store.